Hey everyone, DFA here, welcome back to the channel, and today we are taking a look at the third video in the Kaga in 2024 series after Taylor Swift and then the second one showing you how the Kaga was absolutely the most broken damage machine in the game at this stage. We're taking a look at what is supposed to be the Kaga's nemesis, the Saipan. And it's going to be a guide about how to fight the Kaga, just like the guide I published a couple of years ago on how to fight the Saipan. And this time, yeah, the Saipan is obviously one of the most broken CVs in the game because it does have tier 9 fighters at tier 7. But that advice applies to every single CV which is actually meeting the Kaga. The Saipan is just going to be absolutely excellent at executing it. So essentially what you want to do, the first thing you want to do is you want to be as aggressive as possible from the beginning of the game with your fighters, and you position them as close as you can to the front line, ideally right in the middle of the screen because you never know where those Kaga planes are going to go, and you absolutely focus on the torpedo bombers. Just ignore those dive bombers because they're really just mid-shield for the torpedo bombers. This is where the damage is going to come from. So you saw me that at the beginning of the battle, yeah, and then what you do is you bring them to the middle, because you want to keep them as close as you can to any engagement or direction that the Kaga is going to take. And in that case we do have a Kaga who knows what he is doing, so it's not attacking right in the position of my fighters. I'm just having, yeah, you know, I cannot really send my fighters across the enemy team there because I'm going to lose a couple of them and I will not be in a position to intercept. So yeah, it's a very annoying situation, and just for the record I had faced that player a couple of games before, so I knew that he knew what he was doing, and that's why I decided to record it, that battle. Essentially you see that the fighters are kind of picking on the Kaga's torpedo bomber squadron, so that's good. And I think that's a very bold move of him to decide to go after destroyers. Because in that scenario, typically when I'm in a Kaga versus a Saipan, I really pick the closest target. That's really the advice. You have to be as close as you can to the action with that thing. And you know, one of the issues with the Saipan is you have just so many things to control that you tend to lose focus and kind of do a shit job at micromanaging things. And so while I was taking a look at my torpedo bombers, I left my fighters too far away from the action, and now I am unable to go back to the crime scene. And when I arrived, look at what I found. A New Mexico on a triple fire, and he's actually punching the West Virginia that's following right behind it. So yeah, that ship is just an absolute beast, and you really cannot afford to neglect it at any moment in time. So I'm going to park my fighters right in front of him, and I'm going to make sure that he kind of remains spotted. And I'm putting them there because, yeah, what he could do, what I would do if I was him, is I would actually send my, yeah, that's what he's doing, is sending a squadron of dive bombers, and immediately the fighters are picking them. And I'm trying to call them back, but they simply do not listen. And so that's a good technique as well when you're fighting a Saipan with the Kaga. You send your dive bombers to distract the fighters, and by the time he's able to picking up, then essentially the damage is already done. And you see that my fighters are finally on top of these torpedo bombers, but he has been able to deal its damage. And unfortunately, yeah, it's really not as easy as it seems because he's in an ideal position right now. Is within 15 kilometers of targets, and it's actually in a bow tanking position. So West Virginia, it's not in a position to be using its full broadside on it, and I'm completely not in a position to be intercepting all of its squadrons. The main danger that you want to avoid is that his squadrons are actually pulling your fighters on top of enemy ships, and you see he's doing it again. So he's pulling my fighters in one direction, and while he's doing that, he's actually able to put a couple of strikes on my team. So in the meantime, I do have to worry a little bit about what I'm doing because, yeah, I do have a Bayern that's getting too close for comfort. And yeah, while I was a little bit distracted, he managed to take out another one of my ships. So I'm going to stay just outside of my concealment ring and to focus on that buy. And it's kind of one of the issues with the Saipan. Your firepower is actually fairly limited, and you rely a lot on damage over time to be dealing damage. That's what you kind of see me do here. I'm sending my squadrons one at a time, and I'm hoping to kind of do get a flood and follow it up. But my fighters are right on top of his squadrons again. Yeah, it's completely distracting them, and yeah, I absolutely do not want to get distracted, so I'm really going to park my fighters on top of the West Virginia. And yeah, a little glitch there, as you can see, so the dive bombers immediately reach the cry scene, and when the Kaga is actually so close to the action, there is not a lot you can do to control the engagement and to pick the targets that your fighters are actually picking. So yeah, apart from that, we've done a fairly decent job so far. We've taken out half of his hangar, but yeah, we're 5 minutes into the game and he still has the other half. So that's really a super annoying ship to fight against, and yeah, what the Saipan is kind of not really able to do, you can imagine that the Hiryu or even worse, an Arc Royal or an Illustrious, those with the really worst fighters at the tier, then you really are going to struggle against that Kaga. So we finally take out the Bayern, and my team finally takes out the Kaga player. And spoiler alert, we're going to finish the game with around 50,000 damage and 40 planes shot down, so that's not bad, but he will finish the game with close to 70,000 damage dealt, and I'm not sure that we gave him a lot of room to play with or to maneuver, so you really have to be on top of your game and really monitor every single of its movements when you are faced a Kaga, regardless of the CV you are playing. And the ideal engagement when you are facing that thing as a team is to stay as grouped as you can and as far away from the action as you can, to give your CV as much time as possible to intercept, because the Kaga there was put in an ideal engagement scenario, somewhere between 15 and 10 kilometers, and there is not a lot that even the best fighters in the game tier 4 tier could actually do to stop it. So yeah, 3 videos, I think we've kind of shown that that thing is still completely broken in 2024, and there is a lot of rage going on against tier 10 CVs or tier 8 CVs at the moment, but honestly, yeah, if there was an issue to address with that game and with CVs, I probably would start looking elsewhere, to be honest. Because tier 7, it's kind of where you have the biggest gap in difference between the premium and the tech 3 CVs, and I'm excluding the Arc Royal from the conversation because it's fairly average. But honestly, Graf Zeppelin, Saipan and Kaga, they're just a couple of divisions away from the Ranger and the Hiryu and the other tech 3 CVs, if I'm honest. And so there you go, 70,000 for him. If you enjoyed it, learn a couple of interesting things. Stay safe, take care. That was DFA signing out. Bye bye.